Hello, I'm Alan Avery, and this is Art Strokes. Today we have a very talented artist, Alec Semiatin, who does some wonderful drawings. Welcome to our program, Alec.
Thank you.
Alec, what sort of training have you had to do the things that you do?
Well, after high school, I took one class at Maryland College of Art and Design, cartooning, and after that, it's been about 20 years of just self-practice.
So just a matter of working and working and learning from mistakes and
Every
then
day.
just gradually developing, which is what a lot of very good artists have done in the past. But you are from Maryland, the state of Montgomery County, and you went to school in Montgomery County.
Yes.
I know that. But basically, you have done a lot of traveling too, haven't you?
I've been primarily to Arizona, New York, Florida, California, but I think that Arizona, as far as an area goes, has been the biggest influence on me as far as just relating to my work. I feel most comfortable doing artwork in Arizona. Also, the climate is conducive.
So you felt that the climate was conducive to you working. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
In what way? Well, I mean, I don't understand. Was it cool or hot or, I mean...
Working with what I work with, it just seemed that the markers and the paper just seemed, everything seemed to go together very well.
I see. What kind of materials do you work with?
I use markers on illustration board primarily. That's it, 100%.
I see.
And I use a certain kind of illustration board called Bainbridge Cold Press number 172.
But the thing that I find most marvelous and interesting is the fact that you have a hereditary thing called color blindness.
Yes, I am red-green colorblind, which means that after a certain darkness of color, everything looks the same to me. So I can see light colors like orange, light blue, light green, but reds, browns, blues all seem to blend together. It looks like almost like a gray, like a warm gray.
So how do you cope with this?
Well, I turn to magic markers, or design markers actually, and what they are is they're marked. They tell me what color I'm using. So when I do the artwork, I have to look at my markers when I do it.
So you have some of your markers
Yes.
here on the set, and as well as a sample of your kind of pieces, which I found remarkably detailed.
Yeah.
Because it takes, in my opinion, an enormous amount of patience as well as an understanding of the material. Because of the kinds of things that you do, there is no room for error.
No, totally. It's alla prima, done in one coat.
Right.
If I make a mistake, I just have to live with it. But I very rarely make mistakes when I do it.
I see. Well, in your studio where you work, where you also live, you have made yourself quite a good workspace.
Yes, my friend Greg has built me a great table. It's not as big as I'd like, so you can see I'm working on, actually that's one piece. It's a triptych that I'm putting together. That's the two end pieces, and they hang over the table. And this right here, this particular one, is a vision of heaven.
I see.
And you can see I hold 4 or 5 markers in my hand, and I have to keep them with the what color it is visual, so I can know which one I'm going to use. And I always check. If you look at me doing this right here, you can see that I always have to look at the marker before I put a marker on the paper.
So they actually are positioned in your hand the way they are relating in terms of colors?
And usually in the order I'm going to use them.
In the order, I see.
Everything is done by memory. I remember which markers I'm going to use in a row, since I don't know which color well, the finished piece, I have no idea what it looks like. And so I have to just do everything by memory.
Of course, one of the things that you don't need to worry about in terms of color is your technical pens.
Right.
To draw with, to give you a very nice black line.
Yes.
And so
I use Morris Stadler technical pens. I find that they produce the best black line. And I'm not sure whether the camera will be able to pick it up, but the black lines I use are very, very, very fine, almost to a point of like a needle point.
I see. And of course, the finer the point, the more easily it also can get clogged.
Yes, that's always a problem.
Yeah, it picks up the paper, doesn't it?
Yes. Well, this particular paper, this illustration board, is so smooth that it very rarely clogs.
Mm-hmm. It's very close to being like a plate finish, right?
Yeah, it's almost like a plate finish.
Yes. Of course, for those people who don't understand, cold press is a rough absorbent surface, but a plate finish is more for ink, and, and it's shiny, and that's how you can tell. But as you've explained, it is not really plate finish, but just close to it.
Yes. I had to use, had to try out 4 or 5 different illustration boards before I found the one type that absorbed the marker the best. Because what you have to consider when you use markers is that they spread out, and you have to control the spreading of the markers. It's not like paint where you can go over it with markers.
A fine point or anything,
I'm
brush.
I'm so precise that I have to control the spreading of the marker as well as where the colors go. And this is the 2 end pieces to the heaven one. And a little bit later you'll see the middle piece. Mm-hmm. But the way I do my drawings is that it's a mirroring effect where if you put a line right down the middle of the drawing, everything's exact on both sides.
Kind of a left-right, yin-yang kind of thing.
This is a triptych, which is, it's now finished, but it's 10 feet long, my drawing.
So, yeah, so it's a marvel to me that you are able to just go at this and know where things are. And like you say, you rely on your memory.
I have every color pattern memorized. I had to do that to compensate for the lack of seeing the color. So when I use association, when I see the part of the drawing, I think in my mind what colors they were, and I go through a sequence of markers of what colors they were. And each piece takes quite a long time to complete.
I see.
This particular one right here, I don't know, it showed a few seconds ago, it had the Last Supper, which is a predominant theme through a lot of my drawings.
Mm-hmm. So you do some figurative things, and I noticed that you have a lot of kind of strange animal things, shapes in your work. Is there any reason for this?
Well, a little bit was from the fact that in high school you were my art teacher, and you told me that was my forte, those strange kind of things. You told me to add those to my drawings, and so I decided to continue on with that. And you also told me not to be afraid of color, which I'm not. So I put as many objects into the paper as possible, and whatever just pops in my head. There's no real set influence on me.
But there is a kind of echo effect, you know.
It's mirroring.
Yeah. And that's incredible too. And so you put quite a lot of hours on these drawings. You're probably sure that you don't even know yourself how many hours you put on.
If you keep track, you'll go crazy.
Of course. That's one thing that any artist has to deal with, is the understanding that in terms of hours that they put in, they will never get the monetary reward for those hours that you put in. It's impossible.
Well, you don't really want to think about the monetary reward at all when you're working on a piece.
But I'm still, you know, awed somewhat by your accomplishment and what you've been able to do as a kind of a growth process, so to speak. You know, like any artist, if you have any intelligence, the more you work, the better you're going to get. So that you learn the things that you want to discard and the things that you want to keep based on your experience. Do you also go to explore different ways of working or things to do in your work?
Everything is kind of like just whatever comes into my head. I've stuck primarily with one art medium. I can't paint.
Yes.
And I don't do other things. I've just practiced using markers totally.
But yeah, that's your medium of choice, and,
my medium of choice.
There's nothing wrong with that. This is what you're successful with.
I have studied other artists. I know a lot about other artists.
Right.
But everything is just strictly from practice.
Of course. Well, that's very nice. You know, it takes another artist to understand what you have to do to put into your work, what you have done.
Yes. Something that didn't show there is that Sometimes I do put down a layer of ink before I do the drawing itself.
Oh, you do?
And then I go over it with marker, and then I put down another layer of ink, and then another layer of marker. So that's not one coated. There is some ink underneath on certain parts to get it like a glossy type effect from the drawings.
Oh, yeah, because of the layering can do that. It happens more often perhaps in colored pencil, but you say that when you're layering the ink, you mean you're able to mark with a color marker over the ink, or just talk about ink line?
And not all markers will go over ink.
Yes.
Yeah, through experimentation, I found that certain markers go over ink better than other markers. Sharpie, which is probably the cheapest marker you can buy, does the best job of going over ink.
Of covering quality.
Yes.
That's unusual. I had never thought that you could do something like that with ink.
And some inks don't work well, some inks do. It's just a matter of experimentation.
Yeah, so it's trial and error.
Total trial and error.
Of course. Well, truth be told, that's the same way a lot of artists work.
Yeah.
They learn early on. Are they going to do work a particular way, or it will not work? But at this time, anyway, we do have an opportunity to see what it is that you have been doing.
This one right here is a total vision of hell. And I just sat down and I took a lot of normal, I guess, viewpoints of what people think about hell, and I just put it all together. And this box right here with the skeletons playing the musical instruments, the red, and I do have it memorized which color is where. The red, I used 14 red Sharpie pens to create each box. Now this panel right here is the left side panel to the triptych. The piece itself is actually 30 inches by 120 inches. And soon here you'll see the whole thing together. And this is, I think that hell itself is, everyone seems to have the same, almost the same viewpoint of what hell is. And this is pretty, almost a traditional. And you can see that the word right there, that's the title. And it's backwards because this is a mirror image.
Yeah, we're talking about the F word.
The F word, yes. This is the centerpiece. And if you drew a line right down the middle of this centerpiece, everything to the left for 5 feet is going to be exactly the same as everything on the right. Exact. Everything's in the same position, the same color. Every single stroke is the same.
Do you work completely on one side and then go to the other side, or you just keep going back and forth?
The way with these triptychs, with the big ones, I start right there in the middle. Now that, you're looking down. That's Cerberus, the three-headed dog that guards the gates of hell. You're looking down, you're entering through there. There's different angles that you can look at this. But I start in the middle, and I do the centerpiece, and then I'll do the left piece. And at that point, the creative part of the drawing is done, because the right piece to the triptych is essentially the same as the left. So it's a copying process.
Is this a finished piece that we're looking at, or is there more work?
There'll be one more panel, and then we'll see the whole thing together.
So you left the head with those old wide white space. You just left it as a white space?
Yes. Everything that you see white is simply left white. There's no white marker I use.
Right.
And I do combine the technical pens with the markers in a lot of my drawings, this one in particular. And every single thing, you really can't see in the video, but every single thing has a face on it. The rocks have a face, everything. And there's a lot of different references to different parts of hell that people believe in. And I did have a lady friend come up to me and say that I made the women in this particular drawing look bad. And I told her, I said, hey, this is hell. I said, no one's really supposed to look good in hell. And you see right there, you're looking down, and it's different angles. If you looked at this,
going into.
Yes, and that's simply left white. And it's interesting to note on this one, when you see the vision of heaven that I did, that the stairway, and this one appears to be going down. In the heaven one, using the same exact angle, but just changing a few objects, the stairs appear to be ascending rather than descending.
I see.
And you can look at this particular drawing from any angle. There's my dog-breasted woman there. And see different things. A lot of the drawing I have to do upside down on the table because it's just too big. So half of this drawing I did while it's upside down.
Well, that's incredible.
Upside down.
Yes.
And that's this is the right panel. And you can see where the word up there is transposed because it's a mirror image. Right. And now we'll pan to the whole thing. We put this together in my living room. My brother and I, Ben, put this together, and you can see where this is it all together. This is the vision of hell.
And how big did you say that piece was?
This is 30 inches by 120 inches, which is 10 feet long.
Piece by piece.
Piece by piece.
Okay.
And approximately, I would say, anywhere from 250 to 300 different markers, 20 different pens, and about 5 different inks.
The materials can also be a little expensive too.
Yeah, each one of those illustration boards are very expensive. But I find that Visual Systems in Rockville is a great place to get them because they really know their thing there.
I see. It helped to go to someplace where
it's a good art store.
People know what an artist needs.
Yeah, the best way to look at it, I call these 1-foot illustrations because, not because they're 1 foot, but that's the optimum viewing distance.
Now this has some depth to it, the way you tend to go in because of the perspective in that central portion.
Yes,
the value scale that you've used.
I wanted the middle room to look like it is in the background.
Mm-hmm.
This piece is called The Absence of Intimacy. It represents a celibate life, and the single chair being the sole representation.
The empty chair.
The empty chair, but it's also the only single object. This isn't a true mirror image. In other words, the objects, and you can see them, are not the exact on both sides because it would just be impossible to copy each object over.
Mm-hmm.
But the outside of the drawing is in full color, using all color markers. And as you go towards the middle,
mm-hmm.
the colors change to gray, and then finally the center is entirely all grays, showing that. And on the outside here, those black and white figures are actually people embracing.
Yes. If we think of color as life, then the dark shades of the values is without life, and so that kind of emphasizes the subject matter.
Yes, in other words, being together is color.
Yeah.
Being alone is grays.
That's correct. Yeah.
Simple
You know,
terms.
we think as it's very the very neutral grays. The sameness, which is kind of boring and without life, so to speak.
This piece is called Xylene, and it is a complete mirror image if you put a line right down the middle. Xylene is a toxic chemical that you find in some of my markers, and I just thought it'd be kind of humorous to name one of my drawings after something I've been breathing for about 25 years.
Yeah, this is a solvent and a medium that has been in a lot of different artist materials over the years, which in its own way has killed people, has killed artists, and caused their death, and very dangerous to deal with. So, in the last 10 or 15 years, we have discovered that these things are toxic, and people don't use them in the schools anymore, and even professional artists have stopped using them.
I found that only one marker company still uses it, and just recently they put a warning label on the markers saying that caution contains xylene. But I find that particular marker with that solvent is the best marker for what I do. Yes,
to the credit of OSHA, they have pointed out and made manufacturers let people be aware of these toxic materials. That it has really helped to save people's lives. It literally has saved people's lives because they discontinued using those kinds of materials, or they use them with proper precautions like masks, gloves, and ventilation.
Ventilation's key. But this one shows the range of xylene that goes from depression to being happy. This piece is called 12800, and it represents salmon going upstream. The black and white represent the fish, and when you get a little bit closer, you'll see it, the water. And this is a total experimental piece. I was just trying to see which markers go with best with the paper.
Yeah, I gave OSHA a plug there, but I think that maybe I should have given that plug to EPA, environmental people. And this is very nice the way you have made that transition of strong to the dark to the light to the value scale that you have worked with in terms of your color.
Well, being red-green colorblind, I have to use contrast, where I lose track of where I am unless the colors are different. And I sometimes forget what colors I put where. At night, when I finish my drawings or for the day, I make little pencil marks of what color was where, so the next day I can remember what colors I was using, because I tend to forget what colors go where. That one almost has a carnival atmosphere to it. This is the centerpiece to the heaven, and you'll see the steps and it will be going up rather than, and it's the same angle.
Right.
But just by changing a few objects around it, they look like they're going up.
You get the feeling of that movement.
And I also wanted to keep the black to the minimum in this piece.
Did you reverse the Hebrew letters?
No, because it wouldn't read right.
No.
So I did it. It is in Hebrew, and but I didn't want to be sacrilegious there, so I kept the letters in the proper right to left order.
And what do those words say?
That was the 10 Commandments.
The 10 Commandments. Okay.
This piece right here is a black and white using technical pens only, and it's one stroke.
One complete movement stroke.
Yes.
Yeah.
I lifted the pen up.
Continuous line.
It's one continuous line to form this. This is a vision I had while standing on a wash in Arizona, in Phoenix, Arizona, looking out. And this piece is called Heat, and it was about 115 degrees. And as soon as I stood there for about 10 hours, just enjoyed it, and then went back and in one sitting did this piece. This is from one of my influences, which is music. This is from the song "Comfortably Numb" by Pink Floyd, and that's the last refrain, the last bar from the song. And the drawing itself is the lyrics to the song, and you'd have to look at it to see, but that's all the lyrics in one simple drawing. That's another black and white with technical pens.
That's most interesting. It's too bad they don't know about you, that you could do the album cover for them.
They do all right by themselves. Yeah.
Yes.
But this is from a book. When I was in Arizona, I was fortunate enough to have some money to live off of, so all I did was draw, and I wrote a book, and this is one of the illustrations from the book that I did.
Did you get the book published?
I haven't even tried. Everything I have, all my artwork is simply in a closet, stored right now.
So you haven't been exhibited anywhere?
Never had any kind of exhibit anywhere, nothing. This is my coming out party.
Well, that's great.
This is all done with technical pens, and I use 13 technical pens. This drawing right here is done with technical pens as well. It's two strokes, and it's done with technical pens with color ink in the technical pens. It's just two strokes. This is a illustration I made for a friend of mine. It's under glass, so there's kind of might be a little tough to see till you zoom in there.
Yeah, it's not bad.
But this is a mirror image, and my friend Richard, he said just make him something. So I sat down for a month or so and came up with this, and he's Jamaican, and
the center looks a little bit, kind of totemic, you know, like a totem.
It is a totem pole, and he wanted a few things in there, so he likes the American Indian culture, so I kind of mixed it there.
Right.
I borrowed freely from a few different cultures and nations there. Some tigers and panthers and things, and this is another mirror image where if you put a line right down the center, everything on both sides would be
everything
exact.
except the word. That's you know, Alec. I'm really amazed at the amount of patience and the stick-to-itiveness that you do with your things. There is something about your willingness to just stay with what you're doing that is such a focus that there are not many people who could do that.
Well, I think part of that comes from the fact that I have no deadlines, that I'm not doing drawings for other people. I think that when you're under a deadline, that you tend to conform to what the person wants, and you do have to hurry up and get things done for people.
Right.
But when you just do things for yourself, primarily, you have as much time as you need, and that's what I really enjoy.
Well, you just don't have that pressure that other people feel. That's true. But even though you say you have no deadline, in your own psyche, you are going, in some way, people say, well, I'm going to get this thing done today, or I don't want to work on this anymore, there's something else I want to do. So that a lifestyle that you have is different, I'm sure, from a lifestyle of a lot of other people.
I seek out difficulty. I try to make each drawing a little more difficult and bigger, as you can see, the triptychs, the 10-foot one, I'd like to get to make drawings that are 20 to 30 feet long.
That is incredible.
One single drawing, I'd like to make one. And the heaven one, I'd like to have other artists put on panels on each side to see how they would.
Well, I think the same things that drive you were the same things that have driven many other artists, including the Michelangelo and his things that he has done that take forever, but you have to stay with it. And regardless of how you may feel about this, that you're not saying that you are different than anybody else, but you are different. The very fact that you are able to make these complex things makes you a very different but a really wonderful artist. And Alec, we do want to thank you for being with us here at this time. And this is Alan Avery for Art Strokes. Thank you very much for watching. And we'll just take it.